Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored, and Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is Sunday, June the 10th, 2018, the 27th of Sivan 5778. It is Sunday afternoon. I am in Jerusalem. Thank you so much for joining us here on today's show. I'm also live on Facebook for a little bit of the show, just to give you a sneak peek. We'll get to a couple of news items, and we'll turn off the Facebook Live. You'll be able to hear the rest of the show in its entirety tomorrow on thelandofisrael.com. We'll put it up on my Facebook page, which is Joshua Hasten, and on my Twitter page at Josh Hasten. And you can always get in touch with me during the week, Josh at thelandofisrael.com. A lot of news items here, a lot going on in the world right now. As I'm speaking to you, I just noticed on my Facebook feed a pro-Hezbollah demonstration taking place right now in London, England. So I'm trying to follow, as I'm filming this and broadcasting, trying to follow all of that on the other screen here. In addition, we'll get to the situation in Gush Etzion, the Netiv Ha'avot neighborhood where I live, one of the neighborhoods in the community of Elazar. 15 homes slated for demolition this Tuesday. We'll get to that in just a minute. But top story right now, the IDF announced that it has destroyed another Hamas terror tunnel this morning, Sunday morning. This one unique in that this was an underwater terror tunnel. Anna Aronheim, who was a guest on our show just a few weeks ago, reports from the J-Post the IDF has neutralized for the first time a naval terror tunnel belonging to the Hamas terrorist organization, according to the IDF spokesperson's office, announced just a few hours ago. According to the military, the unique tunnel would have enabled militants to exit from a Hamas military post in northern Gaza via the sea, making it possible to carry out attacks against the state of Israel from the sea. You can go to Twitter or Facebook, the IDF's page, and you can see the explosion, the IDF demolishing that underwater terror tunnel. This is a first, and of course, Israel now is actually working on some type of underwater system, a series of fences and underwater devices and what have you, different layers of security in order to prevent this exact scenario, these underwater attacks being carried out by Hamas. So this just reported a few hours ago. Thanks to the Jerusalem Post for filling us in, but check out, you can see all of the IDF activity there and the explosion there of the terror tunnel on the IDF's either Facebook page or Twitter feed or what have you. Now, a story that affects me personally because we're talking about my friends in the Netiv Ha'avot neighborhood of Elazar. This Tuesday, 15 families will be evacuated from their homes, and those homes will be demolished shortly thereafter. By Thursday, by Friday, the areas are ready, essentially a closed military zone. The bulldozers are ready. The big fences which were put in place are sealed off, and unless you are in the military or the border police or you're part of the demolition crews, you can't access certain areas there in the Netiv Ha'avot neighborhood. There'll be a big ceremony tomorrow on Monday when you're listening to the show. And then on Tuesday, there's going to be the actual eviction, the evacuation of the families from the Netiv Ha'avot neighborhood in Elazar. And it's extremely disheartening, it's extremely emotional, and we feel for those 15 families who will be relocated to a new neighborhood, a temporary, hopefully very temporary neighborhood, caravans nearby. Yet again, and I don't want to sound too pessimistic, even though this whole story is very, very sad, you still have the residents from the Migron neighborhood who are still living in caravans after all these years, and a lot of unkept promises by various governments, whether you're talking about Migron or you're talking about Bet El, where people were evacuated from their homes, and other situations over the last decade or so of Jews being, unfortunately, thrown out of their homes here in the land of Israel. We can talk about and go to previous shows to hear how absurd the situation is and how other solutions could have been resolved. with those strips of questionable land. And I'm not going to get into that whole story again, but it's all out there, the situation and how crazy it is that because of a few strips which are questionable, even though there wasn't an Arab owner who came forward and was able to prove that this is his land, that they're actually demolishing. They've already demolished 2 structures. They're taking down another 15 structures by the end of this week. So it's extremely frustrating, sad, disheartening, and we are here to show our support to those families in Netiv Ha'avot. Again, if you're in the area, please come on out on Tuesday morning. You got to get there early. You got to get there by around 8:30 or so, because then they're closing off the roads entirely. They will not let people into the neighborhood. So just to show support, it looks like it's really, really happening. There was a last-ditch effort to try to save the homes, unless somehow the Prime Minister of the State of Israel demands that this be pushed off or suspended entirely. It looks like in fact it is happening this Tuesday morning. We talked about the other communities where they had evacuations and demolitions in the past, all different types of promises. In this situation, as a result of this, what the Prime Minister has approved, I guess in the initial stages, the legalization of the Netiv Ha'avot neighborhood, and which will take time, and then eventually the construction of 350 homes. And now I'm going to say this as someone whose home is not being demolished, and I wouldn't dare speak on behalf of the residents who are going through this trauma and their children who are being thrown out of their homes and their neighbors' children who will be seeing this destruction, wondering, why is my house still standing while my friend's house is not standing any longer? So I won't be speaking on their behalf right now, but I will say thank you to Peace Now and Yesh Din and those other organizations, those hateful organizations who are sitting back and smiling as a result of this destruction. This isn't justice. This is baseless hatred. I'll say thank you to them, because eventually these residents will come home to Netiv Ha'avot, and there are going to be another 350 homes. So if you actually look at the landscape now, you're going to see a full connection between Neve Daniel and Elazar and Alon Shvut. All those communities will be connected. So in the short term, we're very sad. And again, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the residents whose houses are going to be destroyed. Maybe it's consolation for them, maybe it's not. I'm not going to speak on their behalf. But at the end of the day, I'll say thank you to Peace Now and the other groups, because one day, please God, in the near future, there will be another 350 homes, and there'll be a full stretch of houses from Neve Daniel to Netiv Ha'avot and Elazar all the way to Alon Shvut. So when that happens, when that bears fruit, we'll turn around and say, job well done, Peace Now, because you didn't destroy homes, you just added another 350. So hopefully that's the reality, and we will see. Time will tell what will happen there in Netiv Ha'avot, but this is going to be a very, very emotional week for all of the residents of Gush Etzion, and it should be an emotional week for all of Israel, whether you're in the Gush, whether you're in the state of Israel, whether you're a Jew living abroad, whether you're a supporter of Israel. Unfortunately, yet again, Jewish homes in the land of Israel, because of technicalities and what have you, because of baseless hatred, I would say, are being demolished. So stay tuned to my Facebook page, and stay tuned. Netiv Ha'avot has a Facebook page in Hebrew. There'll be reports coming out in English as well. So stay tuned to everything going on in Netiv Ha'avot. And again, please show your support if you're in the area. So now I'm going to turn off the Facebook Live. And again, I'm going to say, please listen to the entire show. There's a lot more news to cover here on the Land of Israel Network. Listen to my entire show tomorrow. You can check it out via my Facebook page, Joshua Hasten, or on Twitter at Josh Hasten, and of course on the Land of Israel Network's website. Don't forget, you can get in touch with me during the week, Josh at thelandofisrael.com, and I appreciate each and every email. And thanks for watching on Facebook Live. I'll now turn that off. We'll take a short break and come back with everything else going on here in the Land of Israel. Shavua Tov. Hope you're doing well on this June the 10th, 2018, the 27th of Sivan, 5778. Goodbye, Facebook Live, and don't miss the rest of the show.
It's much more real than any reality show. It's much more dramatic than any drama. It's much more funny than any comedy. It's like a game show, but it's no game. It's our lives.
Listen to Inside Israel Today with Gil Hoffman, political correspondent for the Jerusalem Post, every week on thelandofisrael.com.
Welcome back. Josh Hasten here. Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Thanks so much for joining us. We just talked about the Netiv Ha'avot neighborhood, which is slated for demolition. It's extremely troubling even just to talk about it. It's not easy at all seeing what my neighbors are going through there in the middle of Gush Etzion. It's 2018. We're 13 years post the demolition of all the Jewish homes, Jewish life from Gush Katif, and it's hard to imagine that this is happening yet again, but it is. Switching gears here, the JTA reports out of New York that the conservative movement's summer camps said that their commitment to Israel should not be questioned, even though some of their counselors participated in training on how to teach both Jewish and Palestinian narratives related to Israel. Now, what's extremely disturbing is the fact that you have, as the JTA reported a few days ago, you have these seminars being run by this organization, If Not Now. Now, these are Jews who said the Kaddish prayer on behalf of the Hamas terrorists. If you saw the videos, you had groups in the U.S. and then you had others in England as well. But this is an extremist, radical group who believes that you should say Kaddish for those terrorists seeking to infiltrate and murder Jews in Israel. So here you have the If Not Now group, and they are running seminars for counselors who will be working this summer teaching children and being in charge of children at camps, including Ramah. Ramah is a conservative, well-known and well-respected organization that runs camps, summer camps in the U.S. But let me ask you, would you send your child to a camp, even if it's Camp Ramah, knowing that some of his counselors believe that it's okay to say Kaddish for Hamas, for those Hamas members who tried to come into Israel and murder Jews? That is the big problem right now. So again, Ramah came out with a whole statement, how they are a pro-Israel Zionist summer camp, and how they respect all views and whatnot, and there's nothing anti-Zionist about them, but yet you have these counselors who will be in charge of children, shaping the next generation of kids. I know how influential summer camp was on my life, and here they'll be potentially teaching sessions to these kids on the situation in Israel and talking about how they went and said Kaddish for Hamas. It's extremely, extremely problematic. At the same time, alumni of the Union for Reform Judaism's camps and youth movement signed an open letter calling on the Reform movement to publicly oppose Israel's recent actions in Gaza, as well as last month's transfer of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. So now you have Ramah, which is conservative, and you have members of the Reform movement who are also calling out Israel. And here was a quote in something called Jewish Currents magazine by one of the leaders from the Reform movement. They said the following. This person, they don't identify here. The JTA doesn't identify who made this statement. If we do not offer, quote, if we do not offer bold and powerful action, we are missing an opportunity for our community to stand on the side of freedom and dignity for all people, and we are betraying the values that our tradition taught us. So my question to whoever made that statement from the Reform movement there, who believes that If Not Now should be present on summer camps, should have a presence on summer camps in the U.S., what tradition are you talking about? What Judaism says that Jews in Israel should be massacred? Is that Judaism? Is that tradition? Letting yourself being massacred, standing up for people or saying Kaddish for people who want to murder you? Is that what Judaism is all about? Standing up for those who fly burning kites and burn the land of Israel? Is that a Jewish value? There are people over there, unfortunately. There are people here too in Israel, don't get me wrong, but there are people over there who are just so radical, have been radicalized, and I'm talking about in North America, to stand up for Hamas and to claim that Israel's action on the Gaza border betrays Jewish tradition and Jewish values, this is a complete insanity. What Jewish tradition are we talking about here? This is not Judaism. No Jewish tradition praises victimhood, and you could just open up any Torah or Bible and read how we are a fighting, morally uplifting group of people that has been stamping out evil since the beginning of time. You can pick up any Bible and find that out for yourselves, whether you're talking about King David going to battle, or Joshua, or Abraham, or anyone else. That is our tradition. Jews were historically fighters and fought for the land of Israel and fought for our beliefs and didn't mess with anybody who tried to stamp us out. So don't give me this stuff about being a victim is a Jewish value, or laying down your weapons so Hamas can cross into Israel from Gaza is a Jewish value. Don't give me that nonsense. Speaking of Hamas in Gaza, again on Friday, another, I wouldn't call it a demonstration. I would call it an attempted infiltration, a mass terror initiative with 10,000 rioters gathered in 5 locations along the Gaza border with Israel, as reported by the Jerusalem Post. And in addition to the burning kites, they now have these explosive balloons, which they launched towards Israel. And in addition to it reported here also by Anna Aronheim from the J Post, in addition to burning tires, throwing stones, using these incendiary kites, a new technique is launching these kites and balloons with explosive devices attached to them. And in this case, apparently the devices, some of them, these balloons have helium. They can fly farther into Israel. The explosives are then, with pipe bombs and all different types of things. They are attached to cell phones. It's very, very advanced here, these devices. This isn't just a friendly flying kite that's launched by some kid. They hit a button and the explosive devices are supposed to be released. Hopefully in their hope and dream and desire is that these explosives will fall and hurt people and kill soldiers, kill troops, in addition to the fact that these devices have caused massive amounts of agricultural damage. This is agricultural terrorism, destroying nature reserves and fields near Gaza. Along Israel's border, many communities affected there. So just a horrible situation there. The IDF, according to this report, firing warning shots at these people sending kites over. And it's time to do more than that, in my opinion, not send just warning shots towards those who are launching these now advanced devices, trying to murder Israelis and try to burn down the state of Israel. That's what their goal is. Very interesting here to note, one of the demonstrators who was interviewed here saying, an Amir Abu Khalif, 20-year-old business administration student who took part in this hate demonstration on Friday, saying, quote, "Our goal is to break the siege and have the world recognize a right to return." He said, "We're not asking for the moon." Okay, so what's he really saying, though? A Hamas spokesman saying the following, quote, "There is no such state called Israel that could have a capital called Jerusalem." In other words, what's he saying when he claims, we're not asking for the moon? No, you're not asking for the moon. What you're really asking for is the destruction of the state of Israel, a state you're not even willing to recognize exists. You want the city of Jerusalem as yours. You want to throw all the Jews into the sea. That's really what you're saying when you claim we're not asking for the moon. Perhaps not the moon, maybe just the destruction of the state of Israel and burning to the ground the state of Israel and destroying the Jewish homeland. That's really what Hamas wants, and anybody who still defends that position, whether you claim to be Jewish and you're one of these future leaders of a summer camp in the U.S., it's a sad, sad state of affairs. Let's just put it mildly there. Nevertheless, Israel's Security Cabinet, also reported by the J Post, is set to debate steps to ease the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. As this is all going on, Israel is talking about how to get more humanitarian aid there. The plan would need the cooperation of Israel, Egypt, and the PA, according to the Jerusalem Post. So I would say the best way to ease their suffering isn't to send more humanitarian aid in, which ultimately ends up in the hands of Hamas, which is used in the production of all the rockets and tunnel materials and everything else. I would say the most humanitarian thing to do would be to wipe out Hamas. Because if you destroy Hamas, then the people in Gaza have hope. Then they have a chance to advance their lives for the better. Sending more humanitarian aid just enables Hamas to continue on their path. That's my advice to this security cabinet, which hopefully will wake up and realize the best way forward isn't just to simply push off the issue by sending more humanitarian aid into Gaza. I hope they realize the best thing to do is get rid of Hamas. The same Hamas, which is now reported also by the J Post, helping Hezbollah build rocket factories and training camps in Lebanon. Check out that report as well. I won't get into all those details, but Hamas, Hezbollah, these are all Iranian proxies supported by Iran. It all stems from Iran. They're now apparently working together in cahoots, whether they're Sunni, Shia, they're putting differences aside in order to try to harm and destroy, burn to the ground, the state of Israel. Switching gears here, very, very sad news out of Germany. A 20-year-old Iraqi so-called immigrant or refugee or what have you in Germany, raping and murdering a 14-year-old Jewish girl, Susanna Feldman, may she rest in peace. May God avenge her blood, murdered by this guy who apparently she knew or whatnot. And Germany, you just keep up your policy there of letting these people into your country. Truly, truly tragic here in Germany. This Iraqi man who admitted he was apparently caught after he left the country, and hopefully he will spend the rest of his life in a jail or be put to death for raping and murdering a 14-year-old Jewish girl there, Susanna Feldman. Very, very tragic, very, very sad. So we mentioned Gaza, we mentioned Hamas. At the same time, Iran itself on Friday having their annual anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-American protest, Al-Quds Day, as it's called. The president of Iran, Rouhani, reported by Times of Israel, warning that Israel can never feel safe. And of course, threatening to destroy the state of Israel, threatening America, effigies hung of President Donald Trump, chants of death to Israel, death to America with these demonstrations there in Iran. I wonder if they actually physically make these people attend the demonstrations, or perhaps some of them are so brainwashed that they gladly attend these rallies. And this is also connected to Gaza, because that's why more people showed up this Friday than last Friday, because it's of this Iranian Al-Quds Day. So much hate surrounding the Jewish state, yet we're growing and thriving like never before. How ironic is that? But I'm sure plenty of Iranians want this guy gone, want the Ayatollahs out of there, and want to have freedoms that other Muslims have only here in the Middle East, only here in the state of Israel, ironically. But that taking place there in Iran. The Prime Minister of Israel actually just released an amazing clip on social media, on Twitter, directly talking to the Iranian people. I just saw it a few minutes ago, talking how they can help with the water shortages being experienced by the farmers and others in Iran, bypassing the regime, talking directly to the people of Iran. Just a few minutes ago, I saw it up on Twitter, so go check out the clip by Prime Minister Netanyahu bypassing the regime and talking about how Israel can actually help the Iranian people. Back to one of the biggest stories here in Israel over the past week, the world of sports, but it's much more than that. The Argentinian soccer team, football as it's called in Europe, with Lionel Messi, arguably the best player in the world, they were supposed to play this past Saturday night a friendly against the Israeli national team. That match was canceled. Different reasons given as to why that was canceled. Some say that the team nixed the game because of mounting pressure from pro Palestinian, as they're called, groups here, as reported by Times of Israel. Others, including the Israeli Minister of Culture and Sport, Miri Regev, saying that the game was canceled, quote, for one reason only, threats to the life of Messi. This reported by ABC News. So Minister Regev said that it was because of threats to Messi. Different reports here indicated it was pressure. Number one, this is a victory for the Israel haters. It's a victory for BDS. That's number one. Number two, Argentina clearly caved to terror and to evil. Okay, that's for sure. We also need to call out terrorist Jibril Rajoub from the Palestinian Authority. He's also the head of the Soccer or Football Association in the PA, because he urged Arab fans to burn their Messi shirts if they played the game here in Israel, specifically in Jerusalem. Jibril Rajoub, master terrorist. Go read the book Catch the Jew and learn more about Jibril Rajoub, Tuvia Tenenbaum's book, where he exposes the hate within the PA and specifically Jibril Rajoub. So he's also, he should be punished by FIFA, the World Soccer Organization, should punish him for his call for fans to burn the jersey of Lionel Messi. Now, I'm going to admit, maybe people won't be too happy about this. Israel, I also think, messed up with this whole Argentinian soccer game here in Israel, the scheduled game, for various reasons. Number one, when the decision was made to change the venue just 2 weeks ago, apparently from Haifa to Jerusalem, that's a curveball for somebody who has the celebrity status of Lionel Messi. You don't do things like that. You don't make changes. I understand you want the game in Jerusalem and the message that sends, but you don't mess with celebs like that, okay? Celebs are prima donnas, and if you mess with their schedule, it messes with their heads. So that, I believe, was a mistake to change the game just 2 weeks before. And you don't say, before the actual team arrives in Israel, you don't say basically in your face to the BDSers. I've seen this before. I've worked with celebs. I've worked with VIPs who were planning trips to Israel. I saw it last year with a group of NFL players who decided, because certain government ministers and leaders decided to say in your face BDS even before they took off from the U.S. to come over here, that got back to the players, and then they said, well, we're not going to be pawns for the Israeli government. We're not showing up. Many NFL players have shown up, but others did cancel. There was one specific trip where others canceled their visit to Israel because government ministers opened their mouths before the players got on the planes. Again, this is not excusing Argentina or the fact they caved to terror, but for Israel, this should be a lesson for the future. Once they're here in Israel, once they're on the ground, go ahead, all you want, and say in your face to the BDS haters. Then you can start bragging. Then you can start talking about how this was a victory or whatnot. But until they are actually here in the country, don't give the athletes or the celebs an excuse to back out of the deal by changing things, changing the venue, and then bragging about it before they show up here in Israel. That's just my advice on the situation with the national soccer team canceling for Argentina. I do not in any way want to take away from the fact that they caved to terror by not showing up, but we need to learn from our mistakes here in Israel, specifically the government. We need to learn from some of those with a little bit more experience in hosting these types of individuals, and we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that these events are not canceled, and those who want to come to Israel aren't threatened by Palestinian Authority heads and leaders. We will not accept that. We need to learn from our mistakes. And finally, we're running out of time here on today's show, but just want to point something out here. One more news item reported by I-24 News. In Guatemala, they had a volcano eruption. At least 99 people were killed as of today. But, of course, the organization Israel Aid on the ground, one of the first arriving in Guatemala to help the victims and their families, distributing different immediate needs, essentials, water, sanitation devices, helping with mental health, and all different types of needs for those who lost their homes or who lost family members there in Argentina. Israel, a light unto the nations once again with the Israel Aid Emergency Response Team getting on a plane and arriving in Guatemala. The organization founded in 2001 here with the aim of providing life-saving emergency for populations affected by natural disasters, epidemics, and post-conflict situations. Israel Aid stepping up to the plate yet again. So we want to congratulate them and say we are proud to be the first responders. We are all over the world representing the beautiful, wonderful state of Israel, which is truly a light unto the nations with all this hate and all the other stuff going on in the world, the threats against us, the boycotting, the attempts to boycott Israel, which are really a joke, this BDS. But, the Iranian situation, the infiltration attempts by Hamas, and all the other hate in the world, everything going on, Israel's still a light unto the nations. That is going to wrap it up for today's show. My name is Josh Hasten. This is Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Thanks so much for joining us. If you missed any part of the show, go back and check it out on my Facebook page, Joshua Hasten, on Twitter at Josh Hasten. Get in touch with me during the week via email, josh@thelandofisrael.com. Again, our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts with the families of the Netiv Ha'avot neighborhood in Elazar, Gush Etzion. Unfortunately, we're going to be going through that reality here, starting on Tuesday in Gush Etzion. That's all for today. Most importantly, between now and when we speak again, please God, next week, everybody out there in the wonderful world of ours, be safe. Shalom, shalom from Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the state of Israel.
Follow the path of the unsafe, independent thinker, says Thomas J. Watson. Expose your ideas to the danger of controversy. Speak your mind and fear less the label of crackpot than the stigma of conformity. I'm Ralph Mike Foyer, and this is The Jewish Story.
Listen to The Jewish Story with Rav Mike Foyer